welcome back. Of course, it's still Rise and Shine, and we've had a lot of very interesting conversations so far on the show this morning. But let's look at our focus conversation, and that's talking about Nigerian workers. Like the papers have said, the situation has been worse, judging from the scorecard of the 8-year Buhari-led administration. But joining us this morning to give perspective to this conversation is Jide Ojo, who is the Executive Director, Oja Development Consult, author, columnist with the Punch newspaper, and of course, host of Development Focus with Jide Ojo on ITV and a public affairs analyst. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ojo.
Good morning, my beautiful sister. Happy new month.
We wish you
How are you
same as
doing?
well.
How is you today?
Yeah, it's fantastic. We had rains fall
Yes,
this morning. I
very
don't know
heavy
what the
rain.
situation is in Abuja.
Yeah.
Is it a
It's
rainy
calm.
morning in Abuja?
No. The weather is bright, very bright here in Abuja.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Good to have you on the show. Happy Workers' Day. I think that's a good place to start. Happy Workers' Day.
Exactly.
How do you feel having given over 30 years into the workforce in Nigeria? How do you feel being a veteran in this system, celebrating another May Day?
Well, I feel good. I feel great. Um, First, we need to celebrate being alive. It's important that before you are a worker, you are a living being, and you have opportunity to earn a living. That's why you are a worker. If you do not have work, you are not a worker. There are people who went to school at first, second degree, some with PhD that are still looking for work. So the situation is such that it's a misgrill. It's a misgrade for me because, yes, it's another workers' day, another public holiday. For the upteenth time, I don't know when we are productive in this country. Just last week, we took 2 days public holiday for Salah. The previous week, we took 2 days public holiday for Easter, Good Friday and Easter Monday. So in less than 1 month, we have taken 5 days of work, and that's outside of weekends, Saturday, Sundays. So you ask yourself, what's our level of productivity as a country? During the COVID-19, workers who are like 12, grade level 12 and below were asked to stay off work for over 1 year. And yet, in the course of that period, they were paid. So the point I'm making is that the productivity level of Nigerian workers are falling. And when you also look at the environment, work environment, both in private and public sector, is very appalling. And it's debatable. Some will say, oh, private sector is better than public sector. I tend to disagree. I tend to disagree to the extent that when you look at the private sector, it's like it's not regulated. You have the Indians, the Koreans, the Lebanese, the, you know, engaging in mass casualization. Today, many people you see in the banking hall are casual workers. The tellers, what banks now do is to outsource the contract of those who are majorly working for them to a recruiting agency. Is that recruiting agency that gets paid and then pay the workers in the bank? So if you look at, if you have 20 workers in a bank, only 5 may be 5 permanent staff. Others are casual staff. All because these banks do not want to pay health benefit, they don't want to pay transport, they don't want to pay pension, they don't want to pay health insurance. And we tolerate this thing. We have Ministry of Labor, both at the federal and state level. We have the labor unions. Many a time they go on picketing. But how effective has been picketing? We have the National Industrial Court, whose decisions are sometimes not obeyed. Look at ASU. Just last year, ASU went on strike for 8 months, and ASU wants to get paid for the 8 months of not working. So it's a complex issue. The private sector, you need to understand. Look at media sector, the media that you and I have. There are many media houses, media station broadcast, and newspaper stations that will not pay workers in 6 months, in 10 months, in 12 months, asking workers to use their ID cards as their as their meal ticket. And yet, they get adverts, they get all manner of income. So when you look at, and the private sector, the micro, small, and medium enterprises is the fulcrum of every economy. Because when you look at how many workers do government employ, I will tell you for free, all federal workers are less than 100,000. All of them. They are less than 100,000, maybe 50,000 plus. So now, federal government has taken care of its own workers now. That's why COVID-19, federal government did not sack any worker. And now, just this last month, federal government has started the implementation of 40% increase in the allowances of federal workers. But how many state governments are paying? Even the minimum wage of 30,000.
Okay.
So, you know, that's why I say it's complex. I give kudos to the federal government. Under the Buhari administration, you have the salaries increased from 18,000 to 30,000. You have the allowances increased. We just spoke about that. The salaries of teachers was increased. The salaries of police was increased. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
That is federal government. But come to the states, only very few states are paying the 30,000 minimum wage. Some of them have even sacked workers. So the plight of Nigerian workers is very, very disheartening because, as it is said, labor creates wealth. But even when they create this wealth, are they partaker of the wealth?
Okay, so I think Mr. Joe, it brings me back to the major story on the Punch newspaper this morning, trying to review the scorecard of the 8 years administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, thankfully, you have raised the the opinion of the fact that the federal government has increased salaries from 18,000 naira back then to 30,000 naira, and of course the 40% arrears increase just done recently as well. But workers are still lamenting hardship and also scored Buhari, who is the president, and of course governors low on welfare. And quite alarming also to realize this morning, Mr. Joe, is that pensioners still earn 500 naira and 700 naira monthly. And they're putting this side by side by the harsh economic realities on ground.
Well, it's not as if I've tried to calibrate. In spite of whatever you may say about the federal government of Nigeria, it's still better than the states. I mean, many of you would prefer to work for federal government than to work for state government. Maybe in many states, I don't know whether Akwa Ibom civil service is best paid. I know Lagos just increased salaries. about 6-7 state governments are the ones that are paying regularly. But look, this federal government, no matter what you want to say, when Buhari came, the first thing that he encountered was lack of payment of salaries. And the state governors met him about June 2015 to seek what? Bailout. To ask for bailout funds. And on 2 or 3 occasions, he advanced them these bailout funds. That was when the economy was in doldrum, when the price of crude oil, which is our mainstay, the mainstay of our economy, was about $30 per barrel. So we weren't earning much, and the governor said even to pay 18,000 naira, they can't pay because they met empty treasury.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, 8 years down the line, it's still the same story of empty treasury. Because by the 29th of this May, watch out, my sisters, by first week of June, it will be stories of I met empty treasury, I met
Debt.
huge
Debt.
debt
Yes.
portfolio, and all of that. So the bottom line is that corruption has played a very key role in where we have found ourselves. Yes, the global economy is not doing well. And if you watch foreign media, you'll have seen that in France, in UK, in US, workers are going on strike. Even in universities in UK, I've seen universities lecturers in UK going on strike.
Yeah.
So truck drivers are going on strike, workers, medical workers are going on strike. So it's not a Nigerian phenomenon, But what is peculiar about Nigeria is that even for organized private sector that are making uh, multi-billion naira profit from the country, some of them still have very appalling working conditions.
Yeah.
And quite unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword. If you don't take care of your workers, they will become corrupt. Because situations where you fail to pay the 30,000 minimum wage, but as a governor, you can afford to charter private jets to needless meetings that you could have sent somebody to come by commercial flight to attend, or even you. What's wrong in a governor being on commercial flight? But our governors are living large. Look at the pension they have given themselves in many states. There was a time in about 27 states they have retirement benefits for their governors in multi-billion. The Savara case that broke out two years ago was very, very amusing, where the former governor was asking for 100 million naira monthly pension that the state government was owing him.
Mm.
100 million in a state that is the poverty capital of Nigeria, and a governor is taking home as much as 100 million as pension monthly.
Monthly times
That is
12
how we
months.
got our priorities wrong. And that is what has incentivized corruption.
All right,
So
sir.
these workers themselves have found a way of taking care of their own needs by revenue leakages and all of that. So
Exactly.
that's the very unfortunate scenario that is playing out across the country.
All right, so let's talk about productivity in the workforce of Nigeria, because we are also burdened, apart from remuneration and welfare, how well our practices, our workers rather, in the Nigerian mainstream workforce. I was asking earlier in our conversation with Janice this morning, can we put our workers on a competitive stage with other practitioners in our different fields on the global stage, and we will do well? I know we always have the story of, oh, Nigerians in diaspora are doing excellently, but let us look at Nigerians in Nigeria, in our workforce, in competition with workers in other climes. How well would you say we are doing in terms of productivity? Because now, this is a story I was telling earlier. When we talk about people working in the federal or state secretariat, we say, oh, those people, they just go to work in the morning, sign in their attendance sheets, sit down and wait for 2 p.m. to take their bags and go. How productive are they at work? So let's talk about productivity in the Nigerian workforce, sir.
I'm happy you are raising the issue of productivity, my sister, because many a time the workers will tell you, "Oh, we are poorly paid. We are not paid commensurate salaries and remunerations." But what is their productivity level? It's very appalling. It's very, very appalling. And I will also say it's not entirely the fault of the workers. Situations where you engage people and you don't provide them office furniture, they don't have working tools, what do you want them to work with? In many offices, there are no lights, no conveniences, and by that I mean toilet facilities, no furniture. You see about 5 workers sharing one small office, which is not conducive. So it's a catch-22. We blame workers for not being productive, but the answer is, were they also incentivized to be productive? If I, all my life, have been privileged to work in the private sector, in the non-governmental sector, I tell you, um, I started using computer over 15 years ago, laptops, because my bosses will send me assignments not by calling me to their offices, but through Outlook. We call it Outlook Express. It's an email, intra-office email. You just see it drop in your mailbox, and you have been assigned a responsibility. The boss doesn't have to shout at you to say, oh, go and do this, and you, this. We don't have file, we don't have physical, everything is done virtually in my office. And I have a desktop, I have a laptop, and there is 24 hours electricity, and there is AC in our offices. And maximally, even where we are sharing office, is just maximum of 2. But in the public sector and some other private sector, you have, like I said earlier, on 4, 5, 6. Even in universities, you will be surprised that some doctors are sharing offices. How do they want to do research? How productive can you be when you cannot lock yourself in your office to read and do your research work because your colleague is attending to students, or somebody is coming to visit, and you cannot monopolize the use of the office when it is meant to be shared. You see many offices is cubicle that they portion people to. Stationary, common stationaries you don't have. Data, no internet facility. So even where some offices have computerized, when you don't have internet, you don't have skilled people, you still see, in years gone by, we have confidential secretaries. People go to study secretarial studies. If you do that today, you are out of employment already. And what is the level of computer literacy of public servants? Maybe 20%. Because I know some people in a government agency where the agency I won't mention bought computer for all their staff. Many of them took it home for their children to be using. They said they are too old to start learning how to use computer. So the point is, productivity should be situated in what is the office providing, vis-a-vis what are the set targets even for the workers. It's in this country we have, in the lead up to the election, someone recruiting 20,000 aides. To do what? A governor recruiting 20,000 aides. Where are their offices? What are the things? And they draw salaries every month. So situations where people don't have offices, they don't have working tools, they don't have regular salaries, they are stuck on promotion. Some people have been on the same level for upward of 10, 15 years. They have not been promoted. You are demoralized.
Okay, very quickly
Yeah,
now. I think our time is running out. We have barely 3 minutes to wrap up this conversation. From productivity now, you cannot leave redundancy out of all this conversation. So very quickly, let's address the issue of redundancy.
the issue of redundancy, that is why some governors like Governor El-Rufai tried to streamline the workforce in Kaduna State. That many of the workers are not productive and they are not employable. Some do not even have the requisite qualifications, but they were absorbed for political considerations. So they are redundant, they are not productive, and ordinarily should be asked to leave the system. But the workers union will say, no, you cannot sack. How will you? And the point is, okay, how will you not have redundancy? My sisters, a ministry has 3 vehicles, but has 20 drivers. 3 official vehicles and 20 drivers on payroll. Should it have more than 6? So the issue is a very disheartening thing that many employments are done on political considerations, not on competence, not on productivity, and even there are no set goals. The workers are just asked to go and resume. Uh, Even lecturers in university, you see some VCs just appointing lecturers without competence. So at the end of the day, these are the people that you think will mold the destinies of future leaders of this country.
All right.
So we need to do a lot of reforms, civil service reforms, to ensure that we are in compliance with modern day administration that is ICT driven. You get, you can, even without sacking workers, those workers that we say are redundant can be trained to fit into other areas in the organization so that they are not made to lose their means of livelihood. But in Nigeria, we need to do less with political consideration.
All right.
And there are even issues of employment racketeering. Employment racketeering, sex for employment, and all of those shenanigans that play out,
All
both
right.
in private and public sector. But it's a very complicated and we need reforms across board.
All right. Thank you so much, Jido Ojo, Executive Director, OJA Development Consult, and of course, the Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning. Obviously, it's a conversation that we can have over and over again, because it's as if we've not been able to cover, all issues surrounding the employment and productivity of the Nigerian labor force. But we want to say a big thank you to you, Jido Ojo, for being with us this morning.
Always a pleasure. Enjoy your week.
All right.
Happy Workers' Day.
All right, same to you. Oh, great conversation.
Yeah,
I like
great.
where he landed. Reforms is what we need going forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the much we can actually take on Rise and Shine this morning. A bright way to have started our week with you. And happy Workers' Day. I hope that you become a productive person on your end. My name is Uyai Anyek, and thanks for watching.
And of course, we say a very big thank you to our production crew. We'll see you again tomorrow. My name is Janice Cobham. We hand you over now to Sports Central with Blyden Ukem and Isaac. See you again tomorrow.